This is your need to know.
Slower, sweetie.
This is your need to know.
Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're diving deep into a really cool sci-fi thing today.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's that trope where the future is like full of spaceships and like galactic empires, but their tech feels kind of like it's stuck.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean. Like, they've got laser swords, but their politics are straight out of, like, the Middle Ages.
Yeah, exactly. That future but tech is frozen feeling. And our listener wants to know where this whole idea came from.
Oh, that's a good question. It's everywhere.
Right. And we found this awesome Reddit thread.
Reddit.
Yeah, on science fiction. And these fans are debating whether Frank Herbert's Dune, like, invented this whole trope or just made it super popular.
Dune, that's a classic for sure. So many iconic sci-fi universes use that trope, though, right?
Totally.
Like Star Wars, Warhammer 40K, even fantasy settings like Lord of the Rings.
It's everywhere.
Yeah, this idea that progress isn't always like a straight line.
Yeah.
You know?
It's true.
And that seems to have really resonated with, like, authors across genres.
It really has, and this Reddit thread is like a goldmine of sci-fi history. One user points out that Frank Herbert himself said Isaac Asimov's Foundation series was a huge inspiration.
Foundation, yeah.
So should we just, like, give Foundation the award for future tech is frozen idea?
Well, not so fast.
Oh.
Foundation definitely plays with that idea,
Uh-huh.
like especially with this declining galactic empire.
Makes sense.
But Asimov himself was inspired by even earlier stuff.
Like what?
He even admitted to cribbing from Edward Gibbon's The Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire.
Wait, so he was riffing on actual history?
Exactly. He saw this parallel between how civilizations rise and fall throughout history.
Oh, that's so cool.
And I thought, hey, maybe that could happen in the future too. And the Reddit thread actually mentioned some even earlier sci-fi that did this too.
Really? Like what are... Spill the tea.
Okay, so one user mentions E.E. Smith's Lensman series.
I've heard of that.
It's got these vast galactic empires fighting for power.
Classic.
And then there's H. Beam Piper. His stories are all about interstellar politics and how hard it is to keep tech going across, like, massive civilizations.
It's like peeling back layers of an onion, isn't it?
Huh? Yeah.
Like, the deeper we go, the more we see how these authors built on each other's ideas.
Exactly. It's less about finding, like, the one person who started it all.
Right.
And more about understanding how this whole concept evolves over
I
time.
like that.
But get this. Some of those Foundation stories were written in the 1940s,
Wow, that's old school.
before computers like we know them even existed.
No way. So he was imagining this future with, like, stagnant or even going backward tech
Yeah.
before the digital age even started.
I know, right? It's mind-blowing.
That's wild. It makes you really appreciate the imagination these authors had.
For sure.
But the Reddit thread takes us back even further.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, someone mentioned Edgar Rice Burroughs.
Yeah, bros.
You know him.
Yeah.
Okay, so remind me, he wrote...
Well, he's famous for Barsoom.
Oh, right, Barsoom.
That's set on Mars.
Uh-huh.
All those Swords and Planets adventures.
Right, right.
Those stories came before Dune and Foundation.
Wow, so we're talking, like, early 1900s now.
Oh, yeah.
And they've got these advanced societies,
Mm-hmm.
but their technology is, like, stuck.
Yep. It's amazing how far back this trope goes.
I'm starting to think it's been around way longer than we thought.
Me too.
It's amazing.
And it's not even just sci-fi. Another user pointed out that Tolkien's Lord of the Rings plays with this idea too.
Oh, yeah.
It's high fantasy, but you've got this world steeped in ancient history
Yeah.
where tech has been pretty much the same for centuries.
You're right. It seems like this whole fascination with stagnation,
Yeah.
this idea that the future isn't always like a straight upward climb,
Right.
it's really hooked authors from all kinds of genres.
I think so too. It's like a universal theme or something.
Okay, but before we get lost in Middle-earth, I want to circle back to another sci-fi giant mentioned in the thread, H.G. Wells.
Oh, Wells.
Hmm.
A classic.
Right.
What about him?
So his book, The Time Machine, came out in 1895.
Wow.
It paints this really creepy vision of, like, tech and society just stuck in place.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's got humanity in the far future split into these two groups.
Oh, right. The Eloi and the Morlocks.
Yes, the Eloys are like childlike, and the Morlocks are these monstrous underground dwellers.
It's like technology gone wrong.
It totally is. It's like a warning sign saying, hey, advanced tech doesn't always mean good things.
A cautionary tale for sure.
And how does Dune fit into all of this? We know it wasn't the first to explore this idea,
Yeah.
but it feels like a really important example.
I think what sets Dune apart is that it doesn't just assume technology stopped.
Oh.
It actually explains why it gives us a reason. The Butlerian Jihad.
Oh, right.
This huge revolt against thinking machines.
Uh-huh.
It led to people purposely getting rid of certain types of technology.
Oh.
And that shaped the entire history of humanity in the Dune universe.
It's not just that tech hasn't progressed.
Right.
It's that they chose to reject it. And it wasn't even all technology, right?
Oh, it's very specific.
Like Dune still has spaceships
Yeah.
and shield generators, all sorts of advanced stuff.
Right, so the Butlerian Jihad was really focused on machines that could think like humans.
I see.
So things like complex AIs and computers were banned.
Yeah.
But other advanced tech was okay, especially if it still needed humans to control it.
So like a still suit, which is basically wearable tech, wouldn't have been a problem.
Nope.
But a self-aware robot
Big no-no.
makes sense. But wouldn't that create some weird imbalance?
In what way?
Like, wouldn't some societies have super advanced tech
Yeah,
while others are stuck with more primitive tools?
you're right. That's a key point. That uneven spread of tech in Dune contributes to all the power struggles in the story.
It's like the Fremen on Arrakis, right?
Exactly.
They're masters of low-tech solutions.
Yep.
They've learned to survive in this crazy, harsh environment.
That's true. They're incredibly resourceful.
And it's not just them and the great houses.
Oh yeah, don't forget the Ixians.
Oh yeah, the Ixians.
They're always pushing the limits of what's acceptable.
Right. Like they make shield generators and other advanced stuff, but they're always careful not to cross the line into thinking machine territory.
They're walking a tightrope for sure.
It's like they embody this tension between wanting progress, but being afraid of making the same mistakes again.
Right. The Butlerian Jihad is like this shadow hanging over everything in Dune.
It shapes their tech and their whole society.
I know, it's fascinating.
It makes you wonder if this whole tech is frozen thing in sci-fi.
Yeah.
Is it like us being anxious about our own technology?
Oh, that's a good question. Like, are we secretly scared of what we might create?
Right. Are we worried about losing control?
Becoming slaves to our own inventions?
It's a creepy thought.
It is, but it's a question worth thinking about.
And it's not just Dune that does this.
Right.
Like, the Time Machine is all about the dangers of tech going too far.
It's like these stories are holding up a mirror.
Yeah.
Making us think about the path we're on.
I like that.
This is your need to know. This is your need to know. This is your need to know. This is your need to know.
And it's not all doom and gloom either.
Right.
Like, the Dune universe is full of amazing tech,
Real?
even with all the restrictions.
Exactly.
It's both scary and exciting at the same time.
It is. Science fiction lets us explore these complicated issues, to think about the good and bad of technology,
Right.
all within these imaginary worlds.
It's like a safe space to experiment with what-if questions.
Yeah. And to imagine different futures,
Some good,
some bad.
and lots in between.
Absolutely.
Like a giant thought experiment.
I love that way of putting it.
But we've been talking a lot about Dune and the Time Machine, and I know our listener wants to hear about Warhammer 40K.
Oh, yes.
It's a whole different beast.
It really is.
It's like humanity is barely surviving.
Yeah, fighting demons,
Yeah.
aliens, sometimes even themselves.
But even with all that, their tech seems to be falling apart more than advancing.
Oh, yeah. Warhammer 40K takes tech is frozen to a whole other level.
Yeah. I'm ready. Let's dive into that grim darkness.
Okay, let's see how this universe stacks up against the others.
Okay, so we were just talking about how Dune has a reason for why tech is frozen, the Butlerian Jihad.
Right.
It's like they hit pause on AI and some other things, but they didn't like reject all tech, did they?
No, not at all. The Butlerian Jihad was specifically about machines that could think like humans.
Oh, okay.
And that had some interesting consequences.
Like what?
Well, for one thing, instead of relying on computers,
Uh-huh.
they developed these human computers called mentats.
Oh, right. The Mentats. They're
Yeah.
like mental superheroes.
Okay.
They can do these crazy calculations and strategic analysis.
It's wild.
Like they pushed human potential to the limit because they couldn't use thinking machines.
You got it. It's like technology in Dune turned inward, you know?
Yeah, like instead of building smarter machines, they focused on making humans smarter.
Exactly.
And Mentats aren't the only example.
Oh, right. What about these Spacing Guild navigators?
Yeah, the navigators.
They can see the safest paths through space.
They're like the ultimate space pilots.
Right.
They get those powers from the spice melange.
Exactly.
It's crazy how those limitations in Dune actually led to these like superhuman abilities.
It really is.
But what about other more like physical tech?
Like, what do you mean?
Like they've got spaceships that can fold space.
Right.
And those shield generators that block bullets.
Right.
How did that stuff survive the jihad?
That's where the selective part of the Butlerian jihad comes in.
Okay.
It wasn't a ban on all technology, just
Right.
machines that could think like humans.
Right.
So no complex AIs or computers.
Yeah.
But other advanced tech was allowed.
Especially if it still needed humans to run it.
Exactly.
So something like a still suit, which is basically wearable tech, wouldn't have been a problem.
No, not at all.
But a self-aware robot
Totally off limits.
makes sense. But doesn't that create some weird imbalance?
Like what?
Well, wouldn't some societies have, like, super advanced tech? And others are stuck with more primitive tools.
You're hitting on a really important point. The uneven distribution of technology in Dune definitely contributes to the power dynamics we see.
Totally. Like the Fremen.
Exactly. They're masters of low-tech solutions.
Right. They've learned to survive and thrive in one of the harshest environments in the galaxy.
It's amazing how resourceful they are.
It really is. And it's not just the Fremen and the Great Houses.
No, you're right. What about the Ixians?
Oh, yeah. The Ixians. They're always pushing the boundaries.
They are. Always walking that fine line.
Yeah. They make shield generators and all this other fancy tech. But they're always worried about making those machines too smart.
It's a delicate balance.
It's like they represent this struggle between wanting progress,
Yeah.
but being terrified of making the same mistakes as before.
Exactly.
The Butlerian jihad is like this constant reminder
Right.
shaping their technology and their whole society.
Got it.
Makes you think, doesn't it? Like, is this whole tech is frozen thing in sci-fi? Is it reflecting our own anxieties about technology in the real world?
Oh, that's a great question.
Like, are we secretly scared of what we might create?
Are we worried about losing control, becoming slaves to our own inventions?
It's a scary thought.
It is, but it's definitely a question worth pondering.
And it's not just Dune that does this right.
Right. Think about the time machine.
Yeah.
It's a classic cautionary tale about the potential consequences of technology going too far.
Like these stories are warnings,
Mhm.
making us think about what we're doing.
It's like they're saying, hey, what if the future isn't all shiny spaceships and flying cars? What if it's more complicated than that?
Yeah. What if we need to be more careful?
Exactly.
And it's not just about fear either, right?
What do you mean?
Like the Dune universe, even with all its limitations, it's still full of amazing technology.
Right, absolutely.
It's both scary and exciting at the same time.
It is, and that's what makes science fiction so great.
I agree.
It lets us explore these complex issues.
Yeah.
All the good and bad stuff about technology,
Right.
but in these safe imaginary worlds.
It's like a giant thought experiment.
Exactly. Playing out different scenarios and seeing what happens.
I love that. Well, we spent a lot of time on Dune and the Time Machine.
We have.
And I know our listener is waiting to hear about Warhammer 40K.
Oh, yeah. 40K, it's a whole different beast.
Sorry, it's like humanity on the brink of extinction.
Totally. Fighting demons, aliens, sometimes even themselves.
But even with all that, their tech seems to be more about decay than progress.
It's true. Warhammer 40K takes tech is frozen to a whole new level.
It does. So let's dive into that grim darkness.
All right.
Right.
Let's see how this universe stacks up.
Okay, so we're finally jumping into Warhammer 40K.
Here we go.
This is a universe where humanity is like constantly on the edge of annihilation.
It's a tough place to live.
Right. They're battling demons, aliens sometimes, even each other.
It's brutal.
But even with all that chaos, their tech seems to be more broken than advanced.
Putting it mildly.
What's the deal with that?
Warhammer 40K takes that future but tech is frozen idea and turns it up to 11. It's not just stalled progress.
Oh.
It's like everything is actively decaying and falling apart.
Like how?
You've got these giant spaceships held together by rituals and prayers.
You're kidding.
Nope. And weapons that are as likely to blow up in your face as they are to hit the enemy?
So it's not safe to be a techie in 40K.
Not at all. It's
Yeah.
like the tech itself is haunted or something.
That's a good way to put it. I remember reading that humanity in 40K used to be super advanced.
Yeah, you're thinking of the Age of Strife?
Oh, right.
Before that, there was this golden age of technology.
Uh-huh.
Humanity was spreading across the galaxy with crazy, powerful tech.
It sounds kind of like our world now.
Kind of, but then everything went to hell.
What happened?
Orb storms, AI rebellions, they lost so much knowledge and technology.
So it's not just stagnation then.
No,
They actually regressed.
big time.
Wow, so they went from super advanced to barely hanging on.
Pretty stark contrast.
It's kind of scary to think about.
I know, right?
Like, what if we lost all our progress?
It's definitely a cautionary tale.
So now they're clinging to these scraps of their lost golden age.
Trying to understand tech they barely comprehend.
Makes you appreciate what we have, doesn't it?
Makes you think.
Okay, so they lost all this tech,
Right.
but they still have to survive somehow.
Exactly. That's where the Imperium of Man comes in.
Okay. Heat and
You're
chill.
this massive empire
Mhm.
trying to hold humanity together against all these threats,
Right.
and their relationship with tech is really messed up.
Like how?
They view it with this weird mix of reverence and fear.
Reverence.
Yeah, like they worship machines as
Yeah.
gods.
Seriously. That's so different from us.
It is. But remember, in 40K, tech is unpredictable and dangerous.
True.
It's as much a source of fear as it is a tool.
So worshiping it is kind of like trying to control something they don't understand.
Exactly. It's
Like-
their way of coping with the unknown.
I see. But does this fear of tech stop them from ever making any progress?
Well, the Adeptus Mechanicus.
The who?
The Adeptus Mechanicus.
Okay.
They're like the tech priests of the Imperium.
They maintain all the tech.
Yep. And they are super conservative.
Like how?
They see any change as heresy.
Really?
They believe that the knowledge of the past is all humanity needs.
So trying to improve on an old design could get you in trouble.
Big time. Innovation is not encouraged in the Imperium.
That doesn't sound very healthy.
It's not. It's part of what makes 40K so bleak.
It's like they're stuck in this cycle of decay and stagnation.
They're unable to move forward.
But also terrified of what might happen if they do.
Exactly.
It's a fascinating but kind of depressing setting.
It is. But that's part of what makes it so compelling.
It really makes you think, it's cool to see how different creators have used this tech is frozen idea.
It's a versatile trope for sure.
Dune is all about deliberately rejecting certain technologies.
Right.
Foundation focuses on the rise and fall of empires and how tech gets lost along the way.
And Warhammer 40K shows us what happens when tech goes backward.
It's like they're all exploring the same theme,
Yeah.
but from totally different angles.
And that's what makes it so interesting.
It's not just a lazy plot device.
No way.
It's a way for authors to ask big questions about humanity and progress and our relationship with technology.
It's about making us think critically about the future.
It's like they're saying, hey, what if the future isn't just flying cars and robots?
Yeah, what if it's something more complex, something we need to be careful about?
It's a powerful message.
It is. Science fiction is more than just entertainment.
Totally.
It's a way to reflect on our own world and our choices.
And what those choices might lead to.
Exactly.
So for our listeners out there,
Yeah.
the future but tech is frozen idea is more than just a cool sci-fi thing.
It's deeper than that.
It's a reflection of our own hopes and fears about the future.
It's about understanding our place in a world that's constantly changing.
And if you're interested in exploring this more, pick up Dune, check out Foundation.
Or even dive into the grim darkness of Warhammer 40K.
Each one offers a unique perspective on the future of technology.
And who knows, you might even learn something about yourself along the way.
That's a good point. Well, that's all the time we have for today.
Time flies when you're having fun.
It really does. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and never stop diving deep.
This is your need to know. the vast expanse of Arrakis sand, where spice flows and minds command. A world of tech, both ancient and wise, beneath the sun and star-filled skies. Machines forbidden, their power denied. The Butlerian jihad left tech cast aside. Yet still it lingers, reshaped and concealed. The secrets of thought and force revealed. Mentats think where machines cannot. Human minds trained to calculate and plot. The spice fuels visions, the navigator's flight. Bending space through the veil of night. Dune's technology, born of the mind, in the depths of the desert where fate is designed. Ancient yet living, bound to the spice, the tools of survival at destiny's price. The shields hum low, deflecting the blade. Personal barriers where battles are made. Suspensors hold what should not float, defying the sands as they carry the load. Ix builds devices in secrecy's hold. Whispered rumors of machines untold. In guild ships the fabric of space is torn. Through spice and thought, new worlds are born. No AI to rule, no circuits to guide. Only the power of flesh and the tide. The spice-laced visions, the prescient stare, shape the course of a future laid bare. The Bene Gesserit, with whispers and schemes, crafting their plans through ancestral dreams. Dune's technology, born of the mind, in the depths of the desert where fate is designed. Ancient yet living, bound to the spice, the tools of survival at destiny's price. Technology, born of the mind, in the depths of the desert where fate is designed. Ancient yet living, bound to the spice, the tools of survival at destiny's price. In a world of sand, where time is slow, the tools of survival in secrecy grow. No circuits, no gears, no blinking light, just minds unchained in the endless night.